feeling that kind of connection. I know, one of the huge critiques of social media is that we're not really with each other. And that is accurate, because you don't have you're not sharing the same vibe space, which, I'm going vibe, but actually it's true. I mean, there's people in the heart math community that have done some extensive research on how the electromagnetic field of the heart starts to sync with others when we are together. So there's a really important reason for people to be together. And during these difficult times when we're not together, it's also important for us to find ways to connect, because connection is what human beings are wired for, and it's what saves us, So, okay, so if you're here again, please leave a comment. I'm really grateful that you're here. And I just want to share it's going to be a short video. I just want to share 3 tips from the Bhagavad Gita about building inner strength and understanding truth, knowing truth, building inner strength, and moving forward. So so there's this line in the Gita where Krishna says, you know what to do, you know who you are, when you do 3 things. You ask the right questions, pariprashna, you do service, you help other people, seva, and you surrender to the higher power, pranipatena. So, so that's Krishna's little formula there from the Gita. And I started to unpack that a little bit for myself and think it through a bit in terms of what we're going through right now with the pandemic and the lockdowns that are happening. I have a friend in Sydney, Australia, and she's confined to this very small area, and she's got 2 little kids. Really, really tough time. That's just one example. I mean, the emails I get with the stories that we all hear about what people are going through, right? So, so this first idea of asking the right questions, I think, is very important. We have been presented with a reality that presented with a story that there is a virus that came out of these bats in China. And we have been, told by media outlets to just accept that story. Well, it came out the other day in the media. I'm not like a conspiracy theory person. This came out in the media that pharmaceutical executives sit on the board of all the media outlets. I think the only one that they don't sit on is CBS, right? So that was in the news. And then it makes you ask the question, is there some reason for the people in the media to, have some bias towards what pharmaceutical companies are telling? Why shouldn't I ask that question? And this idea of cancel culture and telling people not to ask questions is deeply problematic. That doesn't mean that you buy all the craziness that's going on out there, but it certainly means asking questions is an intelligent thing to do. It's what we are called to do right now, and be open, regardless if it interferes with your personal or political or, religious or whatever perspective. Ask some questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. I have no idea what the answers are. I'm not here to be political. I'm not here to say anything except my expertise from the yoga tradition, which says keep your mind open and ask questions. I heard Jon Stewart on Colbert a month ago saying, oh, science is saving us from this problem that science has caused, and started talking about the Wuhan coronavirus lab. And that made me ask a lot of questions, So as I said, I don't have any answers, but being open and asking questions, and being careful to check yourself. When do I stop asking questions and just do what I'm being told to do, right? That's important. There's a huge cancel culture going on right now everywhere. People are saying, don't ask questions, you're going to get defunded, or people are going to, not like you if you ask questions. We have to be careful of that. We have to be super careful of that. And we have to continue to ask questions. And as I said, I'm fully vaccinated. I'm not a conspiracy person. And at the same time, I think asking the questions right now is super important. So that could be asking the questions about what's going on, right? But we also have to ask the questions in our own life, like, am I ready? Am I, do I have am I resilient? Have I done things I need to do in my life? Like, one of the things the virus has made me been thinking about is like, I really need to look at my will again, make sure everything's fine with it. Like, I need to check out I need to make sure my insurance is good. Like, all of those things I've been really not necessarily neglecting, but I don't think about as much. So I'm asking those questions of myself, like, have I done what I need to do to be a good human being, to be ready for whatever life is going to throw up for my family or my community, right? So that part of asking questions, I think, is really important too. Now, the second piece that Krishna says here is, the second thing he talks about is surrender, but the second thing I'm going to talk about is service. Seva is the word that is used in the Gita. So that made me think a lot about, like, okay, we can do service in so many different ways. And I used to have kind of a more of a, I guess, dogmatic perspective of service, that it meant like going and feeding homeless people, or, just doing something super concrete like that. But what I started to understand about myself and about life in general, as I, continue to practice, is that actually service is about where are your skills best used? That's the best way to think about it. Like, where are my skills best used, and how are they most needed? And, how can I feel a sense of like, this is what I'm meeting the needs right now? Because I think when you look at service, you can just get super overwhelmed and do nothing. At least that's been, I've been like that in the past. Like, I just can't do anything. But, when I think about, like, okay, what's right in front of me? Like, I have a neighbor who's elderly, he's in his 90s, and he lives alone. And, so sometimes just like my service is just stopping by and saying hi and seeing how he's doing. Like, you can do service in so many little ways. It doesn't have to be some kind of formal thing, But what it does for like, service is really as much about you as it is about the other person. Because what it does for you is it kind of takes you out of some of that, navel gazing, hyper focus on yourself, and helps you to see that there's suffering in the world that you can help to ameliorate in some way. So my husband is a psychotherapist. I always talk about him. And one of the things we always talk about is that, like, included in many of the different forms of psychotherapy are getting out there and helping other people in whatever way you can. So if it's like giving some people some money, or, for whatever they're doing, or people that are struggling, or visiting a neighbor, or, food banks, whatever it is that feels like your capacity for doing service, then do it, because service is as much for you as it is for the other person. That when I started to understand that, then I was like, oh, it all comes back to me when I help other people. So there's something really powerful about it. Now, the other piece to that, the service piece, I think that's so important, particularly for women who've been acculturated in the West to take care of everybody else's needs before their own, is to be really careful with overdoing the service, because then you end up like Church Lady on Saturday Night Live, like just kind of bitter and full of yourself. And so service is always a balance, right? It's like, you got to put on your own oxygen mask first, and that's so true. Like, and service service can be really well balanced when you're doing self-care stuff. So you're taking care of yourself, but you're also out there supporting folks however you can in the way that suits who you are. The Gita also gives us so many wonderful teachings around who you are, like who I am, what kind of person I am. And the Gita gives us those like 4 categories. Like, you're the kind of person that likes to work with your hands, more of a karma yogi person, or a Shudra is the other Sanskrit word for that. Or you're the person who's really, loves to study stuff and learn stuff and teach. That's more like the Vipra or the Jnana yogi, right? Or you're the kind of person that really likes to help other people. And that's more, well, that's karma yoga, but the other Sanskrit for that is the, let's see if I show, kshatriya. The kshatriya is the one who likes to take care and protect other people, you know. So you kind of have to sort of be like, who am I? And how do I best show up in the world, and how can I help people? And I think that's a really lovely way to think about service, you know. And always being balanced, because sometimes I have a friend who always says, like, the cart always has to get pushed up the hill, but sometimes you need to step back and let other people push the cart, you know, which is, it's great. It's a great way to think about it. So, okay, so those are two things. I talked about asking the questions. I talked about service. And the last one I wanted to mention is this idea of surrender, because surrender, pranipatena, but there's other, pranipatena, but there's other Sanskrit terms for surrender that are not coming to the tip of my tongue right now. But surrender, I think, gets a really bad rap because we think, oh, surrender means give up or let somebody else have control over you. You know, that's often the way we think about it in the West, but spiritual surrender is very different. You know, that's surrendering to your highest self, to that part of yourself that has a deep inner knowing. It's surrendering the outcomes of your actions, like doing the right thing, but even if it doesn't work out okay, that's, you know, being okay with the outcomes of your actions, putting in that commitment and that effort, and then surrendering, because we don't have control over everything. And there's nothing that's been more you know, has clarified that point more strongly, I think, than these past, whatever, 18, 20 months that it's been of the pandemic. You know, we do not have control over everything. So anyway, that idea of surrender and that idea of, like, there is a higher sense of myself that has some deeper understanding of what I really need. That idea, I think, is an incredibly powerful one for helping to build resilience and helping to build an inner sense of things are going to be okay. I am going to be okay. My family's going to be, everything is going to be okay, even when it's not okay, right? It's that kind of a feeling that surrender helps to build. So I think that formula, ask lots of questions, help other people, and surrender the outcomes of your action. I just think it's such a beautiful, timeless, perennial wisdom that comes to us from the tradition, from the Gita. And I just wanted to share that with you today. So I hope it was helpful. Thank you for listening. Please leave a comment. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you soon. I'll be back on Wednesday. Okay, bye.